As you remember, we have three families of Macintosh. Is the compact one, such as the SC or the SC30 or the Plus, and the modular one, such as the Mac 2 and the Mac 2X. So today we're announcing the Mac 2 CX. And what I like to do first is give you an inside guided tour of the Macintosh 2 CX. What you have here is the bottom case. The plastic is metallized to eliminate radio frequency interference. This is the logic board that goes into the case. You'll see 3 new bus slots as opposed to 6 on the Mac 2 and the Mac 2 CX. And you have the Motorola 68030 processor, the floating point coprocessor. This is the ROM. There's a SIM slot for future ROM upgrades. These are the 8 SIM slots for DRAM. We have, as you know, we have lots of DRAM, so you know, buy DRAM while supplies last. So I'll put that in the bottom case. Then comes the storage. Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Then comes the speaker. The speaker much larger than the speaker you had on the ASC or the 2, which provide better sound quality, better volume. Is placed towards the user, and it drops into the computer here, and is connected with this cable. There's a stereo sound jack in the back. Then the storage subsystem with the floppy at the bottom and the hard disk at the top. We supply the hard disk in 2 flavors, 40 and 80 megabytes. Nervous, you know, everything they said, everything worked at the rehearsal, you know. So we have the power connector in. We have 1 cable for the floppy drive, which obviously I have some trouble putting in. Don't try this at home. As they say. As the Volkswagen adds. So now we have the storage subsystem. This is the power module with the air motion device, which we made even quieter. Ventilation is from front to back to keep the noise out in the back, and the power supply module drops in place. This is the NuBus video 8-bit video card that drops in here. And we have a fully assembled Macintosh 2 CX here. And we'll see if it works. So maybe I can get a monitor. I'll plug the keyboard and mouse. Thank you. Sound. This is one of the video cables. And the last cable, I think, I hope. And we'll see if it works. Well, we have liftoff, I think. Yes, yes. So this is our newest Macintosh, the Macintosh 2CX. And I'd like to say a few words before taking it through its paces so that it introduces itself in more detail. I'd like to say a few words about the design goals we had. One was to obviously listen to feedback from our customers who cared for a computer that would be even quieter than the Macintosh 2. That would take a less desktop space and could be used in various positions. You saw a lot of Macintosh 2s being used on their side. Well, this computer is designed to be used on its side. You can have rubber feet on the side. You put it on the right or the left of the computer, or you can even put it under the counter. We wanted to incorporate what we thought was the best of design for manufacturing, which I hope I established by showing how easy it is to assemble and repair the computer. We wanted speed and more speed. We wanted compatibility with the past of system software and application software, as well as a platform that was ready for the future of the system software evolution. So this is, in my opinion, the nicest computer we've done so far. It speaks well for the dedication and the talent of the engineers and the manufacturer who work together to make the physical design as elegant as the system software design. And now I'd like to explain a few of its features. First, we designed it, as I said, for flexibility. We changed the entire physical design so that, for instance, it could be placed on the side or under the counter, but also that airflow came from the front into the back. That will eliminate noise, would provide the ability to use the computer in various positions with a monitor on top of it, for instance, that would not obstruct the airflow. So flexibility was an important design point in this computer. We are trying to make it as easy to live with as we know how to. The loudspeaker is another element. Our customers like the sound, the stereo sound in the Macintosh 2. It's 44.1 kilohertz, the same rate as a CD sampling frequency. And by the way, all the animations that you have seen and you will see today and the sound are produced on a Macintosh and executed by a Macintosh. Then at the heart of the Macintosh 2CX is the 68030 Motorola processor, which is the high end of the Motorola family. In the Macintosh 2CX you have a 16 megahertz full 32-bit processor that provides about 4 times the throughput of a 68000 that you find in a Macintosh SE, for instance, in part because of the clock frequency moving from 8 to 16 megahertz, but also because of the wider data path as well as the on-chip data and instruction cache. Then we have the 6882 floating point core processor. That core processor is fully compatible with the 881 that we have on the Mac 2 and provides about 400 times the speed that you can observe on a Macintosh SE. And we'll get back to that with some proof of that later today. Then we have NuBus, we have 3 new bus slots instead of 6, which is why we managed to make the footprint substantially smaller than with the Macintosh 2 and the Macintosh 2CX. Let's remind ourselves that this is a 32-bit bus, very high speed, that provides the ability to have multiple masters on the bus, meaning you can have very intelligent cards designed independently of the main processor that can offload the machine of complex tasks for graphics maybe someday, and definitely for communications in the near future. Memory, there are 8 SIM slots on the motherboard. Depending on whether you use 256K or 1 megabit chip, you can have memory coming in 1, 2, 4, 5, or 8 megabyte of capacity on the motherboard. And this motherboard is ready for 4 megabit parts, so the capacity will be quadrupled when the 4 megabit parts will become available, for which this computer has been designed. The disk drive, the floppy drive, is the new super drive from Apple Computer, 1.4 megabyte of capacity, compatible with the 400 and 800K formats that we used previously on the earlier Macintosh. It also provides data file compatibility with other environments, such as Apple's Apple II products environment, but also MS-DOS and OS/2 environment, thus making our customers' lives even easier in a multi-vendor environment, so they can move data around without difficulty. So this is the Macintosh 2CX. This is the latest member of the modular family as opposed to the compact. Now we have some more exciting products, and to introduce them and talk about our overall company strategy, I'd like to bring to the stage the product manager in the sky, the chairman of the boards, John Sculley.
Very much. I had the opportunity just before the Christmas holidays to build a Macintosh 2CX over at our Fremont factory as Jean-Louis assembled it here today. And it really brought home for me how true the statement is that our products really show the philosophy of our company. This is Apple Computer at its best. Best in design, best in terms of what we are trying to do with personal computing. And in many ways, this will shape the destiny of Apple and personal computing as we head out into the 1990s. So what the Apple IIe was for us in the early 1980s and what it helped us to become in this decade, I believe that the Apple 2CX is going to serve a similar role in the late 80s and as we head out into the 1990s. This may be one small box, one CPU, but it represents many different computers. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about for a few minutes now. 2 years ago, we introduced the Macintosh SE, and this has become the most popular Macintosh computer that we've ever brought to the marketplace. But even amongst its greatest enthusiasts, there has always been a great desire to have a larger screen, to have expandability, and to have a product that could support color. With the entry-level 2CX, with the Mac 2 12-inch 640 by 480 black and white screen, we have a product which addresses many of those issues, and it gives us the new bus expandability. But I think the product that I personally am most excited about is the one I'd like to introduce to you right now. And this is the 2CX with a portrait display. I've had the opportunity for the past 2 months to have a 2CX with a portrait display at my ranch, and I use it all the time. And if you are a Mac fanatic, as I am, you will really want to get your hands on this particular machine, because we all remember the Japanese woman woodcut that was first shown when the Macintosh 128K was introduced. But we've never seen all of the picture, and I'd like to show you the rest of the picture. Some of you may have seen me walking around Macworld Expo in January, and I had this little photographer's loop. It's a magnifying glass, and I was going up to different monitors and looking at the corners. And I saw some people saying, "What's he doing?" Well, what I was doing was looking at the resolution, because for a full-page portrait display like this, with wide deflection, it's very difficult to get sharp focus in the corners without having bowing in the center of the screen. And what our engineers have accomplished here is a no-compromise display. It has the same resolution that we're used to with the Macintosh 9-inch screen, a higher DPI. That's 72 dots per inch. This is actually 80 dots per inch. Supports 4 levels of grayscale. In fact, it can support all the way up to 16 levels of grayscale with the 8-bit card. And this is a product which I first realized the importance of high resolution when I was writing my book a few years ago. I started out with a third-party display because I wanted something larger, but then I had to move back to the 9-inch screen on my SE, because sitting in front of the computer hour after hour was very difficult with flicker and soft focus. There is no problem sitting in front of this machine hour after hour, because I've done it now for several months. I'd like to give you an example of just what graphics look like. One of the big opportunities, I think, for the full-page display is to open up new uses for the Macintosh. Claris has come out with a product called Smart Forms. Here's a Smart Form for the 1040EZ, which some of us will be filling out pretty soon for our income tax here in the United States. It lets you see not part of what you get, which is what WYSIWYG has been for many of us, but it lets you see all of what you get when you print it out on an 8.5 by 11-inch page, or an A4 in Europe on a LaserWriter printer. And that it becomes obvious of the significance when you look at forms. Here's a look at what some graphics look like. This happens to be Adobe's Illustrator. And here's another one, which is PageMaker. And I might say one of the uses that I found particularly helpful to me is that I use a number of different electronic mail systems, and one of them is MacNet from Connect. This is a very good user interface on MacNet, and ideal for a full-page display, because what happens is when you receive a message, the message that you want to respond to sits at the top of the screen, and then you get a blank message sheet below that, already self-addressed or addressed to the person you're responding to, with the same people copied on it, and you can refer back to the one you're answering while you're creating the new one. You don't have to click back and forth between windows as you do with some other electronic mail system. So it has some tremendous intuitive advantages to it besides just being high resolution. I'd like to give you even a further example of what you can do with configuring different computers, again, from the same CPU box that Jean-Louis assembled just a few moments ago. And this is our 2-page display. We can bring that out. Now, the 2-page display is something we've been working on for several years. Same high resolution that I described to you with the portrait display, only you can see 2 pages side by side. What Apple has always been good at is recognizing a high technology that may be used by a few, and then say, how do we take that down and popularize it so that ordinary people who are non-technical can use that and get the same level of enjoyment as well as functionality out of it. The setup I've got here happens to be using 2 displays. It's got the 2-page display and the portrait display, both being driven off of the same Macintosh CPU. Now, engineers for a long time have used two displays off of the same computer. What is different here is that we have what we call virtual display, which means that I can control both the workspace and the document space with the same mouse. When the 128K Macintosh came out, my desktop was relatively clean, as I'm sure yours was. There wasn't much you could do with it. There were just a few applications. There was no hard disk. But now desktops are getting pretty cluttered. And I found in my own use that my desktop has lots of things on it. So when I have a workspace, I don't always have a lot of room left over for what I'm trying to create with the computer. Now I do. And this is probably the most dramatic example of that. So for example, if you were doing publishing or presentations and you wanted to create this document, you could reach over to your workspace and with what we call virtual display, and this is something which you can't do with computers that support two displays, virtual display lets me grab that and actually move it across. I can move that back and forth. So let's just take this and put it into place like that. Now, I want to go over into my spreadsheet, and I can take this spreadsheet model, and let's go up and build a chart. One of the things that's really nice about the Macintosh, let's click on chart here. Okay, there's our chart, is that because I'm using multi-finder and different applications and the consistency of the applications is the same, the menu bar doesn't have to change as I move from one application to the next. So you really start to appreciate the value of consistency in the system software and the way developers have followed it with their applications when you're doing something like this. Now what I want to do is I want to move this chart out of the spreadsheet application into the publishing application. And so the way I do that is that I'll go up, first of all, let's decide where we want to put that over here. And let's see, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to copy the chart. Now I'm going to paste it over in the publishing application. Okay, now that has been pasted into this application, so I just reach over here with my mouse, and I can drag that down and put it into position. And I've started to create more of my document.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Larry Tesler.
Hello, I'm here today to give a bit of a personal perspective that ties together the announcements you've heard today with a little bit of the past, a little bit of the future as seen by myself. As you know, I run the Advanced Technology Group at Apple. That's a research group. And what we do is we take dreams we have today about what computer technology could do for people in the future, and we try to make them real by doing experiments in technology, architecture, applications, and so on. And generally, when we come up with these dreams, which are some of our own and some of other people's that we decide to tackle, the difficulty of them seems very great. And it helps to look back to see what past dreams have resulted in today. Today, as I was watching the demonstrations of the Macintosh CX with the full-page display and with the two full-page display, it reminded me of a dream I had myself 20 years ago this year, 1969, when I was working on a magazine as a volunteer, and we were doing paste up, fiddling around with scissors and paste and pasting up camera-ready copy for a community magazine. And as I was doing it, I thought, this is such a waste of time. This should be done on a computer screen. And about 2 years later, I got myself involved in my first page formatting project at Stanford, and then went on to Xerox PARC, and then came to Apple, and always kept in my mind this dream that someday people could do much better paste up. Of course, with the introduction of the desktop publishing technology on the Macintosh a few years ago, that's been achieved. But today is a really special day because with the portrait display and with the two full-page display, Those things that I envisioned 20 years ago can now be done just the way I had them in mind a long time ago. And that's a very rewarding thing. But it's also sobering to see how much work had to be done in between to get to where we are today. When I came to Apple, one of the major problems that had to be addressed before we could get to the point we are today was user interface. At that time, personal computers were pretty easy to put together, but actually learning all the different applications, learning how to use the machine was a very difficult thing to do. So I joined the Lisa design team, which had started a few months before I got to Apple in 1980, and we started looking at the problem of how to make that easier. What we came up with was a series of design principles. Now, there were 3 design principles I think that were really key and that have really sustained us. One is intuitiveness. As you know, we try to use some metaphor that the user's familiar with so that as they work on the screen, the things they're familiar with in the problem they're working on and in their work environment are reflected there. And I think everybody's very familiar with the Macintosh metaphors that we use of desktops and folders, and using cut and paste, which was my contribution to be sure we could do page layout someday, and various other things that are intuitive, the control panel and so on. But intuitiveness is not enough. Another principle we came up with that really turned out to be key was consistency. The idea, as John pointed out, that as you move from one application to another, what you've learned in one can be applied to another. But it's more than that. With Multi-Finder, as you go back and forth between applications, if you needed to be running into unfamiliar menus and different sets of commands as you went back and forth, that would be particularly difficult. So with Multi-Finder, this rule we made about consistency has become even more important. Another thing that's been extremely important is integration. When you buy a Macintosh, you're not buying hardware designed by one vendor, an operating system designed by another, network designed by another, and so on, and then bolting them all together. The whole thing's been carefully crafted by our engineers so that it all works together in a very seamless way, so that mouse motions are smooth. If you can print on your local printer, you can print across the network, and so on. And yet, we're able to, because of the design of the architecture of the Macintosh, we're able to interface the Macintosh with other computers, for example, to connect our network to other networks. And again, for the user, the experience is unchanged. They get that consistency because of the way we've integrated those other people's network protocols and our protocols together. Now, over the years, it turned out that there were a couple of other principles that we didn't pay enough attention to that turned out to be very important to our customers. And today's announcement, I think, really represents Apple's evolution over the last few years in really accomplishing these 2 other goals. And those are extensibility and configurability. Extensibility means that as we increase the product line, you can take the applications that you had before and either use them as is or get very minor upgrades from the developers and move yourself up the line. There are applications that ran on the 128K Mac on the small screen that run today on the Mac IIcx using the 2 full-page display without any change at all. This is very important to our customers because the investment they make in software, the data files they produce, the learning they do, doesn't have to be discarded as they move up either to more powerful configurations of a machine, adding new displays and video cards and bigger disks, but also as they move to other machines in the product line. The other thing that we found to be important was configurability, which again, the Macintosh IIcx announcements today really display, and I think John went into that very well in terms of how you can attach all these different things to it and set things up the way you like it.
The Macintosh makes us extremely competitive, and the reason being is that there are no other design firms that we're aware of that use as many Macintoshes in as many ways as we do.
This pendant is a remote control device for a home care hospital bed. It was designed on the Macintosh. We determined what kind of switches we needed, drew those in a CAD program, designed the size and the shape of the PC board, and then the engineer gave me those files, and I drew right on top of those files the case itself.
Well, we use a company called Visual Engineering. They're a prototyper in Dallas. And what we do is we'll develop all of the databases here on our computers, and then we'll either modem or send them a disk.
We did some work with Chip and Richard, and they basically introduced us to the CAD portion of it. And watching Chip do a drawing that probably would take me 40 to 50 hours by hand, and him churning it out in one evening made me very interested in the system.
There's no question that we couldn't do what we've done with traditional hand tools and hand operating methods of design, the drafting board, T-square type of thing.
You know, you need to go from ground zero all the way to the finished piece, and you can do that on the Mac.
Domino's Pizza sells more pizza than any company in the world. We have over 4,500 stores located all over the world, and we run those stores like little businesses. We had a problem at Domino's that we needed to fix, and that was we weren't getting information and tools out to our operations fast enough. I don't believe there's any question anymore that the kind of new standard for success is no longer money. I think the new standard for success in a corporation is information.
The service, the people, the waitresses, the waiters are friendly, and they're there the minute you need something to get it for you.
We have a project that we're doing with Apple. What we're building is a boilerplate or a template. In that template, we have what the philosophies, values, and attitudes of our company are in a very kind of recreational way. It's fun. What I saw in Apple was that they had sound, they had pictures, they could put text on there, and all of a sudden the revolution was, if you had a learner who was an audio learner, you could get them. If you had a learner who was a digital learner, like text, you could get them. These different frames of learning were being addressed. I think what's exciting about this is that when you put these tools in the hands of that learner, he can develop the training around the way he learns. That's the revolution.
In the newspaper business, if you don't have the graphic immediately, forget it. Overnight service, you've got to have it right away. There are two great things about doing graphics on the Macintosh now. One is you can sell it very easily to the management because it saves a lot of money. Imagine the kind of time it takes for somebody in the engraving department to shoot this several times, figure out what screen you want on it. Here, this is a 20% blue, 30% red, 40% yellow. It was a nightmare for the people back there. They hated us, and it took a lot of time and money. But with the Night Router newspapers starting to use the Macintosh to create graphics, we had the capability of exchanging them from one newspaper to the other, so that on any given day, if the San Jose Mercury News happened to be doing a big graphic on the president's new budget proposal, why should some other artist in Miami at the Miami Herald be doing exactly the same graphic and spending his time there? They can link directly with another newspaper. We've done that many times, where a newspaper will call us up and say, you had a nice graphic in today's paper, can you give us a copy of it? And we'll say, fine, we'll link it to you. This is all because of the Macintosh. I can't imagine coming to work and not having a Mac sitting on my desk. I've had one for years now. And I think I'd rather give up my car than to give up my Mac.
When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it.
History is not dead. History is not just black and white type. History is something that lives. I'm William Lord, and I'm Vice President of a new unit at ABC called ABC News Interactive. And our purpose is to make our library of film and tape available to the school systems through interactive video discs, giving the teacher the tools that he or she has never had before in terms of bringing the reality of history to the classroom.
This is great.
Our first program is called the 88 Vote. Peter Jennings acts as our host.
Hello, I'm Peter Jennings. Welcome to Side 1 of the 88 Vote, an interactive video disc on the 1988 campaign for the White House.
It is a summary of all of the candidates who announced and withdrew during the 88 campaign, highlights from the national conventions, as well as some 22 issues that are discussed and debated by the candidates during the campaign. We chose the Macintosh to use as our editorial storage device and navigator, thanks to HyperCard, because it is the only computer that can simply and effectively act as the front end to our video disc.
My friends, we're cleaning up Boston Harbor.
The video disc has proven itself to be extremely dependable, and with the HyperCard access to it, you have an extremely strong combination of technology that is right, that is not prohibitively expensive, and that increases excitement in terms of learning. This is the greatest high I have ever had. It is a new industry. It's a socially responsible effort, and we know that it can help us grow in the future.
Hello and welcome to what I expect will be a productive and useful dialogue with Apple about your businesses and about our business and about ways we can work together to realize an even more successful future. I've been on the job about a month now. Based on what I've learned so far, I can give you a few brief comments on Apple's state of the business. First, I think it's very clear that due to some of the dynamics in the industry, as well as, frankly, some of our own mistakes, we've stumbled recently. We failed to live up to the promise of our technology. Our response to this is that we will get up, dust ourselves off, and move forward once again. Let me assure you that the troubles that we face are fixable. Having been down this road before, I'm 100% confident that the talented Apple team can and will address them successfully. In fact, we're already beginning to see progress in addressing these issues. During these early days, during perhaps the first 100 days, I've set 3 objectives for us to focus on. First, Apple needs to clarify for ourselves and the rest of the world the strategic direction this company will take, where we can add real value and where we can excel. Secondly, we need to do some financial house cleaning, ridding ourselves of some assets and infrastructure which just don't figure into our future game plan. And third, we need to put in place the corporate alignment and action plan necessary to implement our stated strategy. The essence of our plan is simple. We're going back to our roots. Easy to say, but challenging to implement. Almost uniquely, we are the company that takes complex technology and makes it simple and easy to use, makes it delightful to behold, and makes it affordable, all of which helps to make you and your people more productive. We think computer-based tools should be fun as well as fulfilling. This means we must put the customer, the Apple user, at the center of everything we do, and frankly, I think we had lost sight of that. I've spent a great deal of time in these first weeks reading and listening to people inside and outside of Apple who really care about this company. A list of things we need to do emerged from this process, and while still preliminary, it's pretty clear we must simplify our lineup of products while differentiating them through innovation, deliver greater perceived customer value, increase the clarity and intensity of our marketing message, improve the value proposition for our family of third-party developers, and simplify and strengthen the organization while rebuilding many of our basic business processes. All the competitive rules that existed in the 80s and early 90s are shifting. The challenge we must assume at Apple is to define what the new era is going to look like and to develop and deliver products which help our customers prosper in that era. Our job is to position our company at exactly the right place to serve the emerging needs of your business. Clearly, information technology and communications are going to play an ever more dominant role. You will see a world full of graphics and visualization. You will also see new breakthroughs in the area of usability from Apple. Up until now, we've had to learn our computers. In the future, our computers are going to learn us. And on a longer-term basis, that's where we're headed. The messages I want you to take away are that we are going to be here, that your needs are important to us, that you can count on our support, and that you can continue to expect delightful new products from Apple. I very much look forward to meeting each of you soon. In the meantime, let me hear from you about ways we can help you achieve your goals and ambitions. Thank you.
I received a few questions that I'd like to be able to respond to. The first is, what is the future of the Apple II computer in education and the home? The Apple II is still a very large business on its own. And while you hear Apple talking a great deal about the Macintosh and Macintosh technology, we shouldn't overlook the fact that there is a very large installed base of over 5 million Apple IIs in both education and the home, and it represents better than a $1 billion market when you include all of the peripheral products that make up the Apple II system. The Apple II GS has many of the capabilities that a Macintosh has, and yet it also has the ability to run Apple II software. So it's been a product that has gained in acceptance as time has gone on, in spite of the success that we're having with the Macintosh, which is one indication, I think, that the Apple II will be around for a long, long time. Let me be emphatic about this, that there are no plans at Apple Computer to discontinue the Apple II. We are continuing to do development on it. You'll see more new products in the Apple II family. And while we put a lot of emphasis on the Macintosh technology, and we do see it growing in markets that include the home and education, we think the Apple II is going to be around for a long time into the future, and we'll continue to support it. The second question I have is about Apple's 90-day warranty on its products when other manufacturers have a year or more, and why don't we extend it? Our major obligation is to build the highest quality products that we can, and we try to build products that will be dependable not just for 90 days, but will be dependable throughout the lifetime use of those computers. But we also try to price our products in a way that will not burden every user with costs they might not have to incur. And consequently, we have chosen to offer a special Apple Care program to those people who want to get added service and support from Apple on a warranty basis going out to a year, if they pay some small additional fee. For those people who don't think they need it, then they're able to buy the Apple products at a lower price. So we want to give people the widest range of choice that we can without burdening everybody with an additional cost if they don't think that they need it. Whether we are selling into the corporate market, the government market, the education market, or selling to individuals, it's always the single person that is at the center of everything that we do. You see, we believe that the greatest productivity will come when individuals are able to work better, not just when institutions can work faster. And consequently, we try to design our products as tools for individuals so that individuals can feel empowered and can change the way that they work so they can think better, communicate better, even learn better. The individual has been at the center of what Apple has done since the company was founded. That's where we are today. I'll assure you, as we move out into the future, that's where we'll be there too.
Hi, I'm Allan Loren. At Apple, our vision of personal computing is centered on the individual. Everything we do is focused on making the individual more creative and more productive. Our new products will continue to fundamentally change the way people approach their work. It's not just what our products do, it's how they will work with people to transform what they want into something powerful. That's what defines the experience of using a Macintosh. Apple started with an idea to empower individuals. And the best way to demonstrate how Macintosh changes the way people work is by actually seeing the way individuals work with the Macintosh. So we'd like to show you some people who use Macintosh to work, create, and express themselves in many new ways.
The Apple Macintosh not only helped get all the day-in-the-life photographers to the right place on the right day, it was the heart of the professional system that turned the latest expedition into a published bestseller.
What's so great about the Macintosh is it never gets between us and our ideas. We can try a lot of different variations in a very short amount of time because the Macintosh is so fast and efficient. We can do the whole book on the Mac. We can do layouts, photocropping, typography, mechanical artwork, and it'll look just like it will when it's published. With a Mac, we can get more work done a lot faster because we have all the tools that we need. We have a complete professional publishing system right at our fingertips.
Oh, to be young, when every day is a new experience, a new lesson in the school of life. And in real life schools, we ought to know, because we're with your students and teachers every day as partners in education. But you already knew that. What you might not know is that an Apple computer can be as powerful in your office as it is in your classrooms, as it is in offices throughout the business world. In major corporations, managers rely on Macintosh to make their organizations more effective by making the individual more effective, more insightful, and better able to communicate with others. From the design world to the financial markets, with a wealth of software for managing mountains of information, teaching new skills, or balancing budgets. The very same types of things that you do. In perhaps the most important business of all, the business of education. with software especially designed to help you keep track of students, keep track of books, and keep track of funds. To help you design new facilities, present test score trends to the school board, or publish a report to the community. All in a computer environment so intuitive, so simple, it makes even your students feel at home. An environment that connects you to other computers, even mainframes, and makes them more accessible and useful so you can communicate with everyone, from your secretary to your school board president, across the district or across the state, just by pointing and clicking. But the beauty of Macintosh isn't on the desk. It's in the corridors and in the classrooms of your schools. It's on the ball field in the biology lab. Because with Macintosh to help you manage the business of education, you'll have more time for the people of education.
Watching television because you're making the television.
It allows students to bring in a whole new world of information to their Apple II computer.
At home, it offers people a lot of increased opportunities for creativity and imagination.
It's really neat when you can put yourself into your drawing.
Introducing the Apple II Video Overlay Card from Apple Computer. It lets you take the words and pictures you create on your Apple II and combine them with video. You can take video from your video camera, VCR, video disc, or television, feed it into your Apple IIgs or IIe, superimpose graphics, text, or animation from any Apple II software program, and display your creations on a TV or record them on a VCR. You've probably seen video overlay before, on TV sports programs and on the news. With the Apple II Video Overlay Card, you can create your own overlays, and the only limit is your imagination.
It's like when you read a book when you were a kid, and there were pictures in it, and you're like, wow, I wish I could be in the book. And now you really can on the computer screen.
Once you put this technology in the hands of these students, that frees them to do all sorts of things and come up with all sorts of ideas. This is a natural extension of what the Apples are all about.
Last year, for language arts, I wrote a book called The Ghost of the Great Dane, and we printed it on the Apple. We're trying to illustrate it now. It's about this group of cats called the Main Street Cats.
We took a video of Heather reading her story. She's going to be in the bakery door.
Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Smokey, the leader of the gang. This is Tiger, my cousin, Pumpkin, my best friend, and Princess, a white cat with black spots. She's sort of my girlfriend. And these are the Siamese twins. Not real Siamese twins, silly, twin Siamese cats.
Oh, neato, because now the web, it's really interesting and fun to combine pictures that I made myself with television images. When you put them together, you can do so many things. You just put reality with fantasy, and it's really neat.
As a teacher, it opens up things tremendously. Kids who wouldn't respond to any other sort of stimulation now will respond to the video, respond to the computers, and use them in a far more creative way.
Instead of turning in papers, you might be able to turn in videotapes.
What excites me about using the Apple II Video Overlay Card and the Video Mix software is that it allows us to marry the density of information on video disc and videotape to the intelligence of the computer. And to have those two things together in one package is unbeatable.
One of the things that interested me with the video overlay card is that as we do our own videos, we can now begin to become more creative. A number of years ago, it was a big thing if you sent somebody a tape letter. Now, with this kind of an option available through the video overlay card, you can send them videotapes and include things like recipes and greetings and catch people up and do all kinds of fascinating overlays and special effects that were unavailable before. I'm going to show you how to make it. I could see the opportunity for us to catalog what's in the house, overlay it, and keep a record of it for insurance purposes. Our two children that are working with computers a lot, one has a hobby of swimming and the other has a hobby of horseback riding.
Well, my favorite thing in the world to do is to ride horses. I've been riding them for 6 years. The reason that I did this piece is to study the different movements of the horse. That I did was put dots on all of his main ligaments and then just connected the dots to see how he moves. It didn't take me very long to do because the video card and the video makes it very easy to be able to look at the video on the computer. I was really amazed by what I saw because I didn't know what was going on until I really looked at it as the whole piece of animation. It's actually very interesting.
I'm impressed with the ability now to integrate in one piece of machinery through the computer lots of different things that we have out there. For those families that have a video camera and VCR, that this offers a whole new range of creativity and imagination to the family.
The Apple II Video Overlay Card makes your Apple II computer more powerful than ever before. At home and at school, the world of personal computing has come together with the world of video, and now there's a whole new world to explore.
Alfred North Whitehead, the English philosopher and mathematician, once said that civilization advances by extending the number of important operations which we can perform without thinking of them.
I just simply typed plot 3D sine xy and I got this three-dimensional image. That was great. I used to spend years trying to get these kinds of images. That was really exciting.
To be able to generate 43 or 100 or 200 places of Euler's gamma constant or any other thing you wanted, it's absolutely extraordinary.
Mathematica frees people from the tyranny of manual calculation, and that's important because it allows science to be more inspirational.
Within months of its release, Mathematica began to transform the world of mathematical research and instruction. In the next few minutes, you'll hear from some of the people who pioneered the use of Mathematica on the Macintosh and meet its creator, Stephen Wolfram.
When I started off doing mathematics, I wasn't very good at it. I never learnt my multiplication tables, and it was certainly the conclusion of my teachers at that time that there was no way I would ever go on and do anything of any kind of quantitative nature or anything sort of mathematically oriented. As it turned out, I found out about computers and found out that you could make computers do these kinds of things. We kind of identified several different sorts of mathematics that people like to do. Numerical mathematics, symbolic mathematics, and graphics. The user interface for Mathematica on the Macintosh is a particularly sophisticated one. One of its most important features is the ability to produce what we call Mathematica notebooks, ways of mixing text and graphics together with live Mathematica input. The goal of a software designer should be to build a system where people just say, I turn to my Macintosh, I do a calculation, I don't really notice that this is done with Mathematica and that it has a particular syntax, a particular semantics, and so on. The thing that's great about Mathematica on the Macintosh is the way that the user interface is built for that particular system. The Macintosh has a very rich user interface environment. What we've done is to build a very kind of graphically oriented user interface that allows people to do things like build up interactive textbooks that make use of nice fonts and nice kinds of graphical ideas on the Macintosh. And that's something that the kind of Macintosh environment and Macintosh culture has uniquely allowed us to do. So what one really wants to do is to build a system that's so natural to use that nobody notices it's really there.
Today, professors at universities across the country are using Mathematica and Macintosh to educate a new generation of scientists and mathematicians.
I suspect it's the case that most kids think that mathematics is probably the worst subject to deal with. You know, they hate the math lessons. We want to change that. I think one of the things that I'd like to see happen as a result of Mathematica is that a lot of high school and elementary school kids for whom mathematics is right now their least favorite subject, that it becomes one of their most exciting subjects.
One day last winter sometime, we saw Mathematica run. And I think it occurred to both of us independently, you know, Mathematica can teach calculus to students who couldn't get it the standard way. Now here we have a textbook where all the examples are actually infinitely many examples. Every example can be rekeyed, re-executed, and so what we have is a book that may look like it has one page when it in fact has 100 pages sitting on one page.
In the Macintosh, one can actually feel comfortable editing back and forth, and it is like a dialogue. It is like the student is carrying on a conversation, a very friendly conversation with the author, the initial author of the notebook. We believe that the Macintosh is the correct choice for using Mathematica as a teaching tool, because the student is not bogged down with programming difficulties or editing difficulties.
I believe Mathematica can open up a beautiful world of scientific inquiry. And I predict that math departments are going to see a resurgence in the good quality student who wants to study mathematics because so many doors have opened by Mathematica.
It was propositioned that if you knew the slope of a plane that you intersect with a cone, that there's clearly some relationship between that and the eccentricity of the conic section that results. And the question was just how simple is that function? So I was poking around one day with Mathematica, and it would have probably taken several hours worth of algebra to actually find this relationship, because the algebra is messy. But with Mathematica one time, I just sat down and typed in the relevant equations and had an answer in about 10 minutes. And so with the use of Mathematica, you're allowed, in some sense, to wander into zones of thought where you might not be inclined to go otherwise.
I teach a calculus course to MBA students. Some of them are French majors and history majors. It's very important for me to give them graphical representations of the underlying mathematical concepts.
Unfortunately, something like that is almost impossible to draw on
That's
blackboard.
just what Mathematica is great at. Calculus is about maximizing things. So if you can describe your profit function as a function of two variables, you might be very interested in how to maximize a function of two variables. That means, in Boy Scout lingo, that means finding the highest point in the mountains.
In the past, computer-assisted algebra, mathematical processing languages were only available on sophisticated computers, and this made it impossible to put this into the mainstream of university or high school education in America. But now, because it's available on Macintosh, a common computer means that we can expect common students to do uncommon things.
Mathematica on the Macintosh gives researchers new techniques to gain insight into their work across a broad range of disciplines.
There are researchers at universities, government labs, industrial research labs and so on. One thing that I've been surprised by, pleasantly I think, is that those researchers don't just come from mathematics and applied mathematics and physics, they come from all different areas.
One of the exciting things that I've done with Mathematica was to analyze a case of contested science coming out of Paris. There was an absolutely extraordinary claim made by a scientist that high dilutions would still have very active biological effects, and I was one of a team of people that went over to France to look at this, and I reanalyzed the data later with Mathematica. And in connection with that, this shows what would have been observed if the only effect operative had been statistical noise. That's the theoretical line, that's the dashed line, and the solid line is what actually we observed. And you notice there's just 3 bins here. And one of the things I did was to compare the graphs using different bin sizes. Very easy to do, and here what you see is more and more bins being added. Initially the fit gets better, and then as you go on, there's more noise added into the picture, and the noise comes to dominate the entire thing. The very useful thing you can do here is look at the effect in real time of varying the bin size, and it's very exciting to be able to interact with the data in such a quick fashion, go back and forth and see. It gives you a much better feel for the data than you'd otherwise have. One of the reasons I think Mathematica and Macintosh fit together so well is Mathematica is structured in such a way as to allow you to think very simply about the work you're doing, and the Macintosh is structured in such a way that you can interact with the computer in a very easy way.
I think the Mathematica notebooks will be the first in an ever-changing series of electronic journals. In this notebook, what I've done is I've pasted in a couple of pictures of comets. Then I've digitized these images, and then I simply pasted them into the Mathematica notebook. What I see happening, and if I go further with this, is to actually show this at scientific meeting, rather than waving my hands and trying to draw lines on the blackboard or trying to hope that through my gesticulations people will understand that I'm talking about comet tails and flowing plasma and everything. They actually see it there in the notebook, and they can test it. They can do their own experiments with it. They can put different terms in the equations. And I think that allows scientists to review your work much better than simply being in a meeting and receiving whatever you want to tell them. I think this is very important for science, and this will significantly advance science.
I think science will always have the same amount of perspiration and inspiration as before, but we will eliminate calculus and differential equations and graphics from the perspiration category, and that'll give us more time for having more sophisticated inspirations. The quality of intuitions that one can gain in working on a problem in my field or many other fields of science that I'm familiar with often is influenced by the quality of the visual imagination one has. And when that imagination can be boosted and aided and speeded by a graphics presentation system for mathematics like Mathematica, it's bound to improve certain classes of intuitions. I have to admit that I've always had enough government money that I always had programmers working for me, and so I never learned to use the computer myself. And so it was only the students and the professional programmers who did it. And then I tried to learn using the IBM PC, and I have to admit I hated it because it was so fussy and I couldn't remember whether the asterisk came before or after the colon, and I didn't use the thing for many hours a day. And then when the Mac came, I decided this is the machine for me. And so I have now learned to use it, and I depend on the machine heavily.
One of the reasons I think scientists have switched in large numbers recently to using a Macintosh is simply because it's not only easy, but it has very sophisticated software for doing data analysis and especially graphics. And it's very useful to be able to understand data that way graphically. One of the nice things about Mathematica is that it interacts quite successfully with existing software, so that you can send out a text file and pick it up in Mathematica, open it up, and do the special sorts of processing at which Mathematica is uniquely good. It doesn't sacrifice other sorts of software. It fits in nicely with them. And I think that's partly a good feature of the Macintosh and partly a good feature of the way all of these programs have been designed to work together.
What we were trying to do with Mathematica can be thought of as trying to do for mathematics what the aeroplane did for transportation.
I suppose it's a little bit like being accustomed to going on long hikes and admiring the terrain and the scene, and then riding a bicycle, and then riding a motorcycle, and then riding a convertible.
When I was 15 years old, General Motors dropped a big V8 into the Chevy. That was one of the happiest days of my life. I couldn't wait to drive one of those Chevys. And I had exactly the same feeling when somebody dropped Mathematica into a Macintosh SE.
Perhaps Mathematica then is a combination of calculus and a Porsche 911. It's math in the fast lane.
I'm very excited to be here today. 4 years ago, when Macintosh was first introduced, it would have been a bold prediction to say that Apple would ever participate in a major Unix conference. At the time, the Unix system was well established as an excellent choice for users who needed powerful and complex computer systems, and Macintosh, on the other hand, appealed to a less specialized group, those who may have been interested in the technology, but were just as likely to be mystified and intimidated by it. The Unix system and the Macintosh seem to occupy very different worlds. But today, I want to share with you a perspective that I believe is of major significance for the Unix community as well as for Apple. Something has happened over the last 4 years. As we near the 1990s, we are seeing the old divisions breaking down. Computing environments that were once separated by technology or ideology are beginning to converge. The power user and the average user are beginning to realize that they have more in common. The average computer user is beginning to crave more power and capability, and the power user is becoming aware of issues of usability. Now that we've been living with personal computers for more than a decade, we're beginning to understand their impact on people and organizations. Computers are now a permanent part of the landscape. At Apple, the application of our own technology has transformed our organization. Now, what you see when you visit our offices is a Macintosh on every desk. But more importantly, they are all connected to local networks that share printing, file service, and other resources, to global electronic mail systems linking all Apple offices, manufacturing sites, and distribution centers, as well as key customers, developers, and vendors, and to many computers and mainframes in 16 worldwide data centers. Now, all of us rely on Apple's technology to do our jobs, from our security guards who use Macintosh to connect into databases of company property, to finance people calculating expenditures and income, to personnel managers who access employee information from databases on a VAX. Even our design engineers use Macintosh as a front end to our Cray computer. Now, if we can't rely on our own technology, how can we expect anyone else to? But we found that a personal computer is an even more powerful tool for the individual when it can effectively connect up to a host mainframes or other personal computers, even if they aren't our own. This ability to communicate and connect is something we'll need more and more as we move towards the 21st century. The pressures of rapid change, the compression of time to make decisions, and the cost to process transactions are making it increasingly necessary to have flexible and accessible tools for managing information. Industry, government, and education all face the challenge of remaining competitive in this fast-moving world. And in order to succeed in this environment, our businesses and education systems must be designed to foster innovation. Yet innovation doesn't come through bureaucracy and hierarchy. It comes from individuals. And we believe, therefore, that empowering individuals will be the key to successful organizations in the future. Now, our goal has always been to create products that empower individuals to do their best work by letting them manage and control the information they require to do their jobs. That means that as computing technology becomes more pervasive and more powerful, computers must become more accessible to the people who rely on them. As this conference attests, the Unix system is in a stronger position than ever before. It is an established standard that many vendors support, and it provides capabilities today that other systems are only just beginning to deliver. For multitasking, for writing large applications that take advantage of virtual memory, and for combining resources from different vendors into powerful networks, the Unix system has been put to good use by networks in universities, in government, and engineering research. But we believe that the single biggest step towards broadening the potential of the Unix system is to make it more usable. And we believe that our experience in personal computing can help. We've learned there are a lot of professionals who need the performance and functionality of powerful workstations, but are still intimidated by them. For them, the Unix system may seem like a power tool with handles too big to grasp, a great automobile with an incomprehensible dashboard. But it isn't just a concern of those who are technically naive. Even engineers and users who are not intimidated by the Unix system are discovering that an intuitive and interactive interface enhances their work. I believe there is a simple reason for that. The more demanding our tasks become, the more we need to focus on the work rather than on managing and deciphering our systems. A personal computer is more than a combination of hardware and software. It's a personal computer, not simply a calculating machine or a transaction processor or a data retrieval system, but a tool designed to engage and empower the individual. The value of a great tool is not in the tool itself. It's what we can accomplish with the tool. Now, I'd like to give you a glimpse of how we've used that principle in designing Macintosh and let you hear from some of the people who are working on future generations of the technology.
Pencils are such simple tools, we take them for granted. Yet they permit us to do things that their makers could never have foreseen. The simplicity and usefulness of the pencil makes it about the nearest thing to an ideal tool that we know.
The ideal tool would be one that was invisible, where the person feels they're working on the task, not using the tool. There shouldn't be something in between you and the task. There shouldn't be a tool that gets in your way. There should be the task.
To keep the tool out of the way of the task, Macintosh uses a see and point approach. Apple's now familiar desktop metaphor allows you to work in ways that are far more natural than the structured pathways demanded by earlier systems. It uses icons, files, folders, and pictures to represent documents, applications, and the tools used with them. And it lends itself well to direct object manipulation. It's an illusion, of course, but it behaves realistically, so that our intentions, whatever they may be, are easily translated into actions. The foundation of this approach was set at Xerox's Palo Alto Research Center.
A lot of the ideas that we see today in graphical user interfaces originated at Xerox PARC. What happened was there was an opportunity for people there to bring together technologies that were just emerging from research.
There are lots of people that worked on this, and a considerable number of them came from PARC and joined Apple. And they joined Apple because Apple had taken over, and if anything, was even more enthusiastic about these ideas than Xerox had been.
Once you learn how to use a pencil, you can transfer that skill to other tools, tools that are specifically designed to work like pencils. The principles are the same. This consistency is what allows you to build on experience, to transfer skills from one tool to the next.
Consistency turns out to be more important than almost anything else. If it's the same set of commands I use to type, to erase, to modify, to change, to draw, for all programs, then I'm far ahead. I only have to learn it once.
The basic techniques that the user develops on the Macintosh are applicable to every program the user picks up. It's called leveraged learning. It means that once you've learned something, you can use that to learn the next thing on the next program and so forth. It's consistency. It's the most vital part of any human interface.
To help developers write consistent applications, Apple has formulated and published a set of human interface design guidelines. Not strict rules that inhibit innovation, but principles that apply the discoveries of cognitive science to the design of interactive systems. Standard interface features like windows and menus are built into the Macintosh toolbox to be called on by any program. Apple provides technical assistance to developers to help assure the consistency that Macintosh users have come to expect, and development tools like Mac App that contain ready-to-use software code that provides the basic object-oriented interface structure for new applications.
It's sort of like having, 4 of Apple's best engineers on your design team.
Macintosh users look forward to learning new applications that build on our standard principles of interface design. Direct manipulation. To give you a sense that you are in charge, you act directly and see the results. See and point. Relying on recognition rather than recall. Why should you have to remember the things that the computer already knows? What you see is what you get. A faithful screen representation of the printed document. No abstract print commands to create it, and no surprises when you print it. Consistency across applications, enabling you to apply what you know about one application to another, reducing learning time and increasing productivity. Transparency, the sense that you are working on the task directly, not manipulating cumbersome tools. Real-world metaphors, allowing you to apply what you already know to the computer environment.
When we did the Macintosh, it seems strange to the public that we had put so much attention into the user interface and the bitmap and the mouse. What we were doing, though, was anticipating what people were going to be needing later in the decade to support the types of graphical applications and desktop publishing kinds of things that we could see coming.
The benefits of this approach are now well established. We've learned that when you make a tool that's both useful and usable, then people actually use it. And we've learned that when the basic principles and style of an interface are established and stable, then developers can concentrate their efforts on meaningful innovation. They can push forward into new territory, knowing that their applications retain enough familiar appeal to be easily adopted by a wide audience.
Now, after 4 years of Macintosh, we've seen a double springboard effect. First, the Macintosh has unleashed tremendous creativity on the part of developers. The consistency and stability of the interface allows developers to spend more time designing innovative applications, not redesigning the interface. And second, new applications are creating another wave of creativity and productivity at the user level. Again, because of the consistency in applications, users don't have to spend a lot of time training in order to be productive. There now exists a large and growing community of designers, programmers, and customers who are fluent with conventions of Macintosh and work with it easily and successfully. But the momentum we're seeing today was a long time in coming. As Allan Z and Larry Tesler pointed out in the video, many of the technologies present in the Macintosh existed even before Apple was founded as a company. In fact, many of them also predate Xerox PARC. They had their beginnings in university laboratories and the ARPANET. If you look back to the early 60s at Ivan Sutherland's Sketchpad, you can see the roots of our conventions for drawing on screens. But it was 20 years from Sketchpad to Macintosh. And if you look back to the mid-60s at Doug Engelbart's NLS, or online system, you can find the origin of the mouse. But it was 15 years from NLS to Macintosh. And if you look back to the early 70s at what Allan Z, Adele Goldberg, Dan Ingalls, and others accomplished in developing Smalltalk, you can find early versions of Windows, menus, and bitmap graphics. And yet it was more than 10 years from Smalltalk to Macintosh. And if you examine these early research projects carefully, you'll find many attractive features and capabilities that are still waiting to be developed. Now, there seems to be an incubation period that averages about 15 years before advanced research can mature into commercial technology and find its way into the marketplace. It seems to take that long, whether the engineering is difficult or relatively simple. The things that we know we want, like great flat panel displays, take a long time to develop. And things which are relatively quick to engineer, like the mouse, take a long time before we recognize that we want them. Well, if that 15-year time span continues to hold true, we can look into advanced technology laboratories today for a glimpse of the kind of computer products we'll be seeing early in the 21st century. I wrote a book last year called Odyssey, in which I described what I thought the personal computer might resemble at the turn of the century. And I called this personal computer the Knowledge Navigator. And here are some of the technologies that are crucial to the Knowledge Navigator vision. First is advanced communications. Today we're constrained by narrow information channels, and the protocols and standards for transferring data between systems is fragmented. We need technology that will link processors and databases anywhere in the world, and that means better vehicles and broader information pathways. Second is graphic simulations. As our computers gain more processing power, we'll rely more on graphic simulations to give us vivid representations of abstract relationships. And as the technology advances, real-time 3D color animation will become commonplace, allowing scientists to visualize complex numerical models with the same ease with which we now graph a column on a spreadsheet. Third is object-oriented distributed databases. Improved database technology is the key to creating intuitive and responsive information systems. One approach that shows great promise in the early research involves mapping and storing information into object-oriented structures. Fourth is hypermedia. Computer visionary Ted Nelson has been promoting the concept of hypermedia for almost 3 decades. But only recently have commercial implementations appeared on the market, with Apple's HyperCard, Owl's Guide, and others. In broad terms, hypermedia is the delivery of information in forms that correspond to the natural patterns of human thought. See, it allows you to make instant choices about where you want to go next. It will give us a much more intuitive way of navigating through enormous collections of information, combining text, graphics, sound, and motion. And fifth, artificial intelligence. This technology is critical to our future vision of personal computing. Artificial intelligence will allow us to create agents that can recognize and anticipate our strategies and preferences and increase our productivity. Well, to understand how these technologies can work together, it helps to see them in action. So I began to wonder, could we simulate the experience of what it will be like to use the Knowledge Navigator?
You have 3 messages. Your graduate research team in Guatemala, just checking in. Robert Jordan, a second semester junior, requesting a second extension on his term paper. And your mother reminding you about your father.
Surprise birthday party next Sunday.
Today you have a faculty lunch at 12 o'clock. You need to take Kathy to the airport by 2. You have a lecture at 4:15 on deforestation in the Amazon rainforest.
Right. Let me see the lecture notes from last semester. No, that's not enough. I need to review more recent literature. Pull up all the new articles I haven't read yet.
Journal articles only?
Fine.
Your friend Jill Gilbert has published an article about deforestation in the Amazon and its effects on rainfall in the sub-Sahara. It also covers drought's effect on food production in Africa and increasing imports of food.
Contact Jill.
I'm sorry, she's not available right now. I left a message that you had called.
Okay. Let's see. There's an article about 5 years ago, Dr. Flemson or something. He really disagreed with the direction of Jill's research.
John Fleming of Uppsala University. He published in the Journal of Earth Science of July 20 of 2006.
Yes, that's it. He was challenging Jill's projection of the amount of carbon dioxide being released to the atmosphere through deforestation. I'd like to recheck his figures.
Here's the rate of deforestation he predicted.
And what happened? He was really off. Give me the University Research Network. Show only universities with geography nodes. Show Brazil. Copy the last 30 years at this location at 1 month intervals.
Excuse me, Jill Gilbert is calling back.
Great. Put her through.
Hi, Mike. What's up?
Jill, thanks for getting back to me. Well, I guess that new grant of yours hasn't dampened your literary abilities. Rumor has it that you've just put out the definitive article on deforestation.
Aha. Is this one of your typical last-minute panics for lecture material?
It would be great if you were available to make a few comments. Nothing formal. After my talk, you would come up on the big screen, discuss your article, and then answer some questions from the class.
You know, I have a simulation that shows the spread of the Sahara over the last 20 years. Here, let me show you.
Nice. Very nice. I've got some maps of the Amazon area during the same time. Let's put these together. Interesting. I can definitely use this. Thanks for your time, Jill. I really appreciate it.
No problem. But next time I'm in Berkeley, you're buying the dinner.
Dinner, right.
See ya, 4:15.
Bye-bye.
While you were busy, your mother called again to remind you to pick up the birthday cake.
Fine. Print this article before I go.
Now printing.
Okay, I'm going to lunch now. If Kathy calls, tell her I'll be there at 2 o'clock. Also, find out if I can set up a meeting tomorrow morning with, Tom Lee.
Enjoy your lunch. Hello, Professor Bradford is away at the moment. Would you like to leave a message?
Michael, this is your mother. I know that you're there. I'm just calling to remind you to call your sister and pick up.
Now, we think the combination of Apple's intuitive and accessible interface and the power of the Unix system can be revolutionary. This is our first release of AUX, but as we continue to expand our Macintosh technology, we will expand the potential for AUX with tools like HyperCard for AUX and other applications and data management solutions. We want the Unix system to remain an open standard platform on top of which we and others can add distinctive innovation. Now, this is only the beginning of what the market can expect from Apple with the Unix system. We're off to a good start, and we're anxious to see others use our new tools. The power of the computer is not simply with the silicon. It lies in the ability to weave a new fabric of connections between people and knowledge. That's why people who have begun to experience what personal computers can do, even on a limited standalone basis, yearn to extend that experience to encompass even greater capabilities. That's why Apple's customers have urged us to provide greater pathways to connect into alternative computing environments. The computer is a simulation engine capable of encompassing all the categories of tools previously created by man. It has the power to extend the reach of individuals by providing information and allowing them to apply their own insights to it. We at Apple are dedicated to the continuing refinement of our technology in human interface, networking, communications, and sophisticated applications. And we will rely on standards that allow opportunities for innovation. The Unix system is such a standard. Until today, the contributions of the Unix community and those of the Macintosh community have developed in isolation from each other. Working separately, each of us has been able to define and consolidate our own strengths. Working separately, we've each made an impact on the course of computing technology in the information age. Well, now, we need to look to each other to enhance that technology, to realize the potential we have as individuals and as organizations to extend the usability of the technology. We've each been a part of crafting for the information age, and now we have the opportunity together to craft the future. Thank you very much.